And here I thought I was reading a Beauty and the Beast retelling, but we have some Cinderella thrown in now too. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel and to the read-along of A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. I'm Kat, and this time we'll make it through chapter 37 to 39. We're almost at the end. I can see the light. After her first challenge, Feyre sits in her cell and worries about her wound becoming infected, and then she runs a fever and she's in pain, and clearly nobody is coming by to deal with that. Until Rysand shows up and offers her a deal. He heals her and she will spend 2 weeks of every month with him at the Night Court. And Feyre refuses a couple of times. And at a certain point, Rysand just twists the bone that is sticking out of Feyre's arm around, and she nearly blacks out from the pain. And then she negotiates. It's like, wow, what a charming trait. You're not giving me what I want, so I will cause you physical pain. Brilliant, just brilliant. But before this, when she's saying no, she spits at him, like more than once. I think like 3 or 4 times. It's like, wow, this girl is certainly fond of spitting at people. Yet again, another trait I could have kind of done without. Feyre negotiates him down to 1 week of every month. He agrees and heals her arm, purges her fever, but now her arm is marked in tattoos with like swirls and a feline eye in the palm of her hand. It sometimes blinks at her and is possibly watching her too. But she's marked, and now she's a bit annoyed because she's suddenly concerned how this might hurt Tamlin's feelings. I feel like his feelings might have been hurt if you just died in the cell of a fever and an infection too, but sure, let's worry about this now. Tamlin's feelings might be hurt. It's like, yeah. Maybe he should have done more to fight Amarantha then, but he didn't, so, you know, you do what you gotta do. And this is the part I really don't get. So she worries about Tamlin's feelings. Is anybody worried that Amarantha might think, why the fuck is Rysand helping her? Because those words make it fairly obvious, okay, this is from the Night Court and also things that happen further down in this chapter. From them it's clear that it's Rysand helping her, and Amarantha doesn't restrict his movement or what he can do at all. In her place I would have been very suspicious at this point. But that's not a concern that Feyre or Rysand have, apparently. And because I've already been spoiled for the second book, not that I particularly care, but we know that the love interest will be Rysand in the next book. And I'm really confused. So far he's been manipulative, invasive, because he dug around her mind. Now he caused her physical pain, and still he's only ever described it like positive attributes. He's so graceful, beautiful, blah, blah, blah. And it's really, really unsettling. That's already everything that happens in chapter 37. And the next one starts out with Feyre's first household chores, so she actually has to work. I'm kind of surprised that they just left her in the cell before this, because she was just sitting there getting sick and suffering from her injury. Apparently she didn't need to work for anything then. They waited until Rysand stopped by to heal her, which was a couple of days after the injury, it seems, so okay. But now she's being put to work. Her first task is scrubbing a whole hallway with just 1 bucket of water and a brush. And she finishes half the job and is then like, oh no, the water is too dirty, I can't do anything anymore, I can't clean anything with this. But Lucian's mom turns up, or pops out of one of the doors from the hallway, and gives her a clean bucket of water as a sign of gratitude that she didn't let her son get tortured more just for her name. Like, cool, so Lucian's mom is in the castle as well. I'm not sure it will ever play a role again, but Feyre can now finish scrubbing the hallway, yay. Her next task is sorting lentils out of a fireplace, because that seems like a very common thing to happen in the castle, whatever. She's supposed to finish that with her bare hands before the owner of the room comes back and rips her skin off. But it turns out that the owner of the room is Rysand. So apparently Amarantha thought he would enjoy toying with her for a bit as well, which is why she sent her to his room. She is still not suspicious of anything. Like somebody went out and healed Feyre. Does she not know who did it? Does she not care? Has she not seen the tattoos yet? Possibly not. But she must know that there's somebody, or possibly even more than one person, in the castle willing to help Feyre. And Rysand is the one who bet on Feyre in the last challenge. And that wasn't just to make money or be, I don't know, adversarial, I guess. No, Amaranta seems to harbor no suspicion whatsoever towards Rysand because it's his room that Feyre is in. He turns up and is like, why the hell are you digging around in my fireplace? And he's like, yeah, I'm supposed to remove the lenses. He's like, yeah, okay, he does it with a snap of his fingers. Cleans up Feyre too. And they just talk for a bit. He shows her his shifter ability. Apparently every high fae can shift into a beast, but not everybody goes all out with it like Tamlin does. So Rysand, for instance, only grows talons and bat wings, but doesn't really turn from humanoid to bat, really. And throughout this whole thing, Rysand is still described in a positive fashion, you know, graceful, blah, 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 whatever. Doesn't matter, because with the amount of red flags he has shown us so far, he could be Adonis himself, and I would run screaming the other direction, but never mind that. Feyre is somewhat hot for him still, like from the way she describes him. It's just like, girl, get a grip. Rysand also tells Feyre that Amaranta prohibited any other fairies from giving her the answer to the riddle. But like I said before, she didn't do that in the scene where she gave her the riddle itself. So if Rysand was in the room at that point, and he can use mind control, we know that much so far, I feel like he could have just told Feyre the answer to the riddle then and there, and she wouldn't have to go through any of the challenges. Whatever, because Rysand seems to be keen on either fucking with Amaranta or helping Feyre out, but there also seems to be some animosity between him and Tamlin that is not even related to Feyre anyway, so I don't know what exactly is going on there, but Amaranta must know that she has many enemies in her own court, given that she stole all of their powers, and literally everybody there should be somewhat or massively pissed at her. She should not trust anybody as far as she could throw him. But apparently this does not concern Rysand in the least. Whatever. The guards come by to pick up Feyre, and he mind controls them and tells them that she doesn't need to do any more chores around the castle and that nobody is allowed to hurt her. And apparently that sticks for an extended amount of time because the guards just accept it and Feyre doesn't have to work from there on out. So I wonder just how powerful Rysand would have been with his full powers. Because he is still controlling other fairies, not just, you know, humans or animals. So Feyre spends a couple of days in her cell, failing to solve the riddle, until chapter 39, and two Night Court fairies or high fae, I don't know, I think high fae, do the same thing that Rysand does, like they melt out of the shadows and appear in her cell and take her along. They take her to some other room, bathe her, pretty her up, and then paint tattoos all over her body. And then the only thing she gets to wear is like 2 strips of see-through cloth for her upper body and like a little bit of cloth for her front at the bottom. And apparently most of her backside is exposed too. So I don't know, I think the average stripper actually wears more than that. But that's how Feyre has to go to this party now. Because it turns out Rysand just wants her along as entertainment for him, really. And he demonstrates like, oh, all of the swirls that they just painted on you is so I can see that nobody touches my toys. He smears some bit over her shoulder or something. It repairs itself, but it will only do that for Rysand, and if anybody else touches her, she can see it. Or he can tell that somebody else touched her because the paint will not repair itself. They head to this party, like the full throne room, Amaranta on the throne, Tamlin next to her. And while they walk to the throne room, Feyre comes out with this. He owed me for a week every month. Apparently he thought that extended to the rest of my life too. Well, you didn't specify a time, so yeah, this counts for whatever time he sets now, most likely the rest of your life. Did you not consider this when making the bargain? Because it seemed fairly obvious to me. She's so stupid, seriously. How is this girl still alive? I don't understand. Anyway, they get to the throne room, and Rhysand just outright tells Amarantha and Tamlin, like, yeah, hey, we struck a deal. And Amarantha is just cool with this, apparently. I don't understand what's going on there in, like, the politics of the fairies either, because at this point in Amarantha's place, I would be very concerned that the High Fae that still has the most of his powers and is technically directly under my command seems to be up to something, but she doesn't seem to think so? I don't know. All of these High Fae need like a Tywin Lannister by their side to tell them how to actually rule anything, because they all suck at it. Like, holy hell. Rhysand takes her to the tables that are laid out with food and drink and tells her to drink some wine. She remembers Alice's warning and is like, no, I'm good. She says no 3 times, and then he mind controls her into drinking anyway. She blacks out completely. She has no idea what happened that evening and wakes up with a massive hangover in her cell the next day. She throws up a couple of times, feels generally rubbish, and has no idea what happened. But she can tell that the only paint that is smeared on her is a bit on her side. She's like, oh, okay, so nothing untoward happened, and it's the only place he touched me. But before, when he demonstrated this, the paint repairs itself for Rhysand. So this would technically mean Rhysand could have done whatever he wants to. You don't remember currently. The paint would have repaired itself, and somebody else touched your sides because the paint stayed smeared. What? This is just fucking creepy. Like, the whole idea that she says no 3 times and then he just mind controls her into doing what he wants anyway. How is this guy the love interest for the next book? How? What the hell is Sarah J. Maas on? Lucien stops by to talk to her. For one, to complain, why didn't you wait for me to come back to heal you? And she's like, well, I couldn't wait. I was running a fever and I didn't know whether you would even come. They have a very nonsensical conversation about why she thinks he might not come. I don't know. I don't understand this conversation. It's just like 2 people having completely different conversations that make no sense together whatsoever. But anyway, Lucien couldn't come any earlier because when he helped Feyre in the first challenge, he gained himself a couple of leashes, like 20 whip leashes by Tamlin, thanks to Amarantha. So he was kind of out for the count for a little while there. But then he also tells her what happened the night before, the bits that Feyre can't remember. So apparently Rhysand made her kind of strip dance, or like in general dance for him all night. So either she was dancing for him or she was sitting on his lap. Once again, how is this guy a love interest? So he got her drunk against her will and then he used her for this kind of stuff. And apparently that's okay in the author's book. He's the first guy she should stab. No, maybe not. Amarantha, Arthur, and then Rhysand. You should off him in this book as well. So the same thing happens every single night until the night before Feyre's second challenge. So every night she gets dragged out of her cell by Night Court, High Fae, or fairies, whichever, gets dressed up and gets drunk to dance for Rhysand. Yeah. Wonderful. So well, I mean, I already know it's not going to happen, but I would quite like to see Tamlin take his head off just for this. But I'm not gonna get that, am I? Anyway, on this last evening before her second challenge, they have a summer faerie on the ground in front of Amarantha, who was apparently trying to escape to the spring court the way that Feyre came into the palace. So apparently they know about this way and nobody thinks to patch it up or guard it properly, or I would patch it up, but whatever. So this summer faerie tried to escape, and they have the High Lord of the Summer Court there as well. And Amarantha orders Rhysand to dig around in this faerie's mind to see whether he had help or whether he acted by himself. Rhysand goes digging for a second and then says, yeah, no, he acted by himself, it's fine. Amarantha tells him to shatter his mind. I'm not sure what exactly that means, but Rhysand does something and instantly kills this faerie. Amarantha is rather upset. She wanted him broken, not dead, I guess. Whichever. But just from this little bit and the way Rhysand behaves, Feyre infers that he might actually have been covering for the High Lord of the Summer Court, and that there's more going on. She makes quite jumps in logic at points, and yeah. But then for other things that are so fucking obvious, she's just too daft for those. Anyway, she spends all of this time with Rhysand. I guess that's why we had to draw this whole challenge bit out so much, so she actually has time to get even more horny for Rhysand for some reason. God knows why, because there is literally nothing speaking in his favor in this. He's helping her out, yes, but that's not because of her or Tamlin. It's because he wants to screw over Amarantha. Cool, sometimes you have to work with the allies that the world presents to you. But the way he's described is like, oh, sensuous, and he's purring and blah and whatnot, and it's all like the terms that she would have used for Tamlin beforehand, and so like, oh yeah, that's the love interest. It's like, it's fucking gross. It's just gross. So while beforehand I was only either bored or annoyed with the romance, but if this is the proper love interest for the second book, then hell no. I mean, I was already not interested in reading any further Sarah J. Maas books, but holy hell. If this is the toxic kind of guy that she portrays as the love interest, then fuck this. No. Anyway, the second challenge is around the corner. Let's hope it doesn't require too much brain power, because Feyre still has no idea about the riddle. I'm sure she will figure it out just at the right moment at the very end. But it still makes me question her intelligence. Every single time the riddle gets mentioned, I'm like, well, you still don't know? Really? Oh my god. If any of you have read any other Sarah J. Maas books, or even just the second one of this series, do let me know how many more red flags Rhysand can wave in front of Feyre's face before she has any kind of negative reaction to him. Is any of this ever coming, or is she just like, yeah, this is how the right guy for me should behave? I mean, it kind of fits with her wanting to skin somebody alive. At least I can see that one connection there, but outside of this, like, I'm just baffled that this somehow works in the end. No. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll be back next week with another video. Like and subscribe if you want to help this channel out, and I'll see you next week. Bye guys!